a swinging S station in Buffalo, the big WUFO.
And welcome everybody once again to the Buffalo History Channel. Thanks so much for your continued support of the weekly content that we strive to provide you with here on some of the unique aspects of Buffalo and Western New York's history. You know, we're trying to spend a considerable amount of time this year in 2023 highlighting Buffalo, the history of Buffalo's Black media, not only in television, but also in radio as well. We've brought you legends of WBLK. Now we're going to bring you some of the legends of WUFO 1080 AM, the legendary, now known today, of course, as Power 96.5 FM. And it is my pleasure today to be joined on the Buffalo History Channel by a man, a unique man, a man who is faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. Welcome to the Buffalo History Channel, the legendary Mark Vann Superman. You know him today as JoJo Walker. Mark, but right now, let's call him Mark Vann as we remember him. Welcome to the Buffalo History Channel, brother.
I am honored to be here with you, Doug. You know, this is, I've been watching your videos and your documentaries. I said, wow, for you to call me, I was like, fantastic, I'll do it. And,
absolutely.
You're doing a great job, man, great job.
Absolutely, man. I can definitely, I will definitely tell you, I do recall listening to y'all back in the day. It was around early, I think early to mid, mostly early 80s when we used to listen to, y'all used to have some of the hip hop music playing on the station, some of the mix shows that used to play on the station. So we definitely tuned in every now and then when we wasn't listening to WBLK.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And one of the things I can remember, I started working at WUFO back in 2007. Started there in January 2007, and that year was they were starting up to celebrate their 45th anniversary in the city of Buffalo, and I volunteered because I used to do the documentary on the Build organization and everything, and did some stuff on Buffalo's history. And I remembered when I would be at the library and going through a lot of the old Challenger and Criterion articles, I would see a lot of different advertisements for WUFO. And, you know, they would talk in the station, you know, Sheila and Dwayne and Lee would talk about all the history of WUFO and all the jocks that came through because we wanted to highlight them. And your name was one of the main names mentioned, because I remember they were trying to get everybody to come down for like a reunion at that time. And I was down and I found some different advertisements of many of you. But it was a learning experience for me because I got to learn more about just the history of Buffalo radio, being at that station, being at 89 LaSalle Avenue, where so many people just came through that door. And
you were part of Buffalo radio.
Yes, absolutely. It was certainly an honor. And as I was listening to it, your people, there would be families that would come through, and yours was one of the main ones. So let's start there. How did it start for you in radio? Or did some of your family members come first?
Yeah. One day my sister, Penny, my second oldest sister, Penny, married Kelly Carson. Okay. And Kelly Carson, because I was such a music fanatic, my sisters really got me into music, my sister Penny and Kitty. And I knew I wanted to do music, but I can't sing. I can't sing nothing. So I said, well, here's an avenue to get into the industry and do music in some way, shape, or form. And I used to do the Delwood dances with my brother, David Michael.
Okay.
So Kelly Carson was the person who influenced me into doing it. And the first person from the family that started was David Michael. We used to do the Delwood dances and things like that. But once he got on the air, I really had the bug. I really wanted to do it. Then after that, my stepbrother, Keith Pauley, the discotizer,
Yes.
he got into it. And listening to them two, I was just ready. So when I turned 17, Don Mullins gave me a break and says, hey, man, we're doing the 6 to 9 p.m. shift. You know, it's summertime. What do you want to be part of it? And I'm like, of course. Mm-hmm. So he gave me a job and just started from there.
Okay. And what year did you get on the air?
Oh, geez, 1977.
Okay.
I just gotten out of high school.
You just got out of high school or just got into high school?
Yeah, just got out of high school.
Out of high school. Okay. Yep. And you were Mark Vann Superman. Now, you know we got to ask, where'd the Superman moniker come from?
You know what's funny? Their Van is a made-up name.
Yes.
And there's a song that we used to play in the club because I started at Club Continental.
Okay.
That's how I started. And I'm 17 in this 21 years and over club. And one of the songs I used to play was called Superman.
Okay.
I can't remember the artist.
Superman Lover? Johnny Guitar Watson?
No. It was a disco song.
Okay.
Superman,
disco era.
I love you, Superman. And I said, you know, it would be cool if I called myself Mark Vann Superman.
Okay.
And so the name stuck. And that's who I turned out. I just gave myself a name.
Okay, I'm curious because a lot of times when I was back during my BLK days, when I would do the Quiet Storm from time to time, people would ask me to do this, and I used to think it was weird all the time. But now I'm finding myself doing it right here. Now I'm just doing this out of curiosity. Give for the audience, for some of our audience members that don't know, give us a taste of how you used to open up the mic back in the day as Mark Vann Superman.
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Give us an example of how you used to open up the mic back in the day as Mark Vann Superman.
Oh yeah, that was easy. We were Disco 1080 back then. Mm-hmm. And I'd say something like, Disco 1080 WUFO, hey, this is Mark Vann Superman in your ear, giving it to you straight with no chaser. We got a jam coming up from the whoever back then was Prince. You know, hey, Prince is coming up next. As a matter of fact, this other group at the time, they're coming up as well. And I'll tell you about a time when I was doing, I went backstage and met them, you know, that kind of thing. I was very natural with it. I tried to tell my audience about things that happened in my life and all the facts that I knew about them.
Okay, let me see. I remember the interview that you did with Dwayne Landers we recorded back in 2011. You and Jeff were on the air. Could you share with our audience, because you were hosting the stage during Prince's Purple Rain tour, and you have some. Would you like to share some stories with our audience from that concert?
Yeah, that was a heck of a concert. I remember being asked to MC, and the time, Vanity 6 was coming on stage. So the promoter asked me to go on stage and bring on Vanity 6. I said, okay, great. Now, if you remember in the movie Purple Rain, there was a big wrestler-looking guy named Chick. And that was
his bodyguard, right? Right.
So I'm going up the stairs and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up here and I'm gonna kill him. And so when I get to the top of the stairs, he's standing there. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I need to get on stage. I need to MC." And he stood there and he just stared at me. And I said, "Sir, can I, get around?" And he just stood there. And I ended up having to turn sideways and squeeze past him because he was not moving, regardless of the situation.
Wow.
I said, okay. So that's how I got on stage to bring on Vanity 6 in the Time, because he just was not going to move.
Did you guys get a chance to meet Prince backstage?
I met Morris Day.
Morris Day, okay.
I was told not to look at Prince. When he came out, they said no eye contact.
I heard about that. I've heard about that. That he had this thing where you couldn't like look him directly in his eye.
Right. Yes. Don't look at him. Just, look away. And I'm like, this is funny. So
I'm starting to think of Dave Chappelle right now.
Look, I mean, and the Dave Chappelle thing, I'm gonna tell you something. That whole Rick James thing, that's him. Mm-hmm. That's definitely him.
Now, since you brought him up, any memories of any Rick James stories? It seems like everybody has a Rick James story.
Oh, absolutely. I used to do an article for Buffalo Challenger. Mm-hmm. And it was called Bandstand. And what it was, basically, I would interview artists and then write articles about the artists that I interviewed. Well, I wrote an article called Rick James, Black or Green. And back then, I didn't really have a lot of journalistic, I didn't know a lot.
Yeah.
So I came right out and just started blasting him about the fact that he had produced Tina Marie. But his second artist that he produced was Bobby Militello, which was a white saxophone player.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Back then we had Last Days of Time, Sabata, all these Black groups who were trying to make it. Yeah. And we were trying, and so I was like a bit upset about that. I said, so I started talking, I started writing the article and I blasted him. So one day I'm at home and this guy, California St. Clair, he stops by. He says, "Hey man, let's go out to Rick's house." And I'm like, "No, I don't think I'm welcome there." He said, "Oh no, Rick's on tour, man. Come on, go ahead." And so finally he got me in the car and we went out to Rick's house. Okay. Got there and he's got a brother, they call him Head. And he had a walkie-talkie. And I remember walking in and he got on the walkie-talkie. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I knew it was something about me. So imagine, because Rick's house always had 1 million people in it. Just always.
Yep.
And so you walk in and I see this man with no shirt on doing like this, like looking for me. And he finally made eye contact with me and he walked over to me and he grabs me and says, "Come here." And we went into a room. It was a vacant room. There was no furniture, nothing. It was just a bedroom. Yeah. And he went into blasting me, telling me that he was going to cancel my career. I could, you will never see another microphone again. You'll never get another job in the industry. He went clean off. And even though I was trying to maintain my, I'm trying to, "Hey, Rick, no, wait a minute, Rick, no. Nothing. He just blasted me and left the room and left me in this empty room.
He had soldiers for you, huh?
And from that point, we actually became friends.
Okay.
Yeah, we became friends. And here's one other story that ended it. When I moved to New Orleans, he came to the House of Blues. And he was a friend of mine said, hey, I got these backstage passes, let's go. And we went, and Rick performed, and he killed. This is very close to the end of his career. And I'm like, wow, Rick still got it. So we went backstage, and I saw all the guys that Rick hung with back in the day. And they were all like, man, it's so good to see you, man. You know, I never thought you were here in New Orleans. So Rick was in the back. He comes up, and he's greeting everybody and signing autographs and everything else. He comes towards me. I'm like, hey, Rick, it's me, Mark Vann, Buffalo, New York. Remember Keith Pollard, California, St. Clair, all of us? He says, hey, and kept walking. I said, oh, man, he did not know who I was. And
probably remembered that article, huh?
Yeah, the guy said, you know, Rick's been through a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it was a funny story because I just thought he was going to be glad to see me.
Okay, some of you, we mentioned earlier about some of your other family members that are on the air. I want to start off with, talk to us about Kelly Carson.
Kelly Carson was program director at WUFO when my sister married him. And I used to come to the radio station and just hang out because I just wanted to be part of it. He had very good ratings. His station was, you know, top 5. WUFO really was a big time station back then. And he was a very interesting person. I'll say that. I love him to death. He left us and went to Indianapolis to work for WTLC in Indianapolis and was legendary there. A lot of people remember him from Cleveland, Ohio. But yeah, Kelly was really the reason why I got into radio. He is the reason.
Okay. Your brother, David Michaels, the Hammer. So talk to us about your brother.
That's funny. I was the little Hammer. He was my hero. My brother was very good at what he did. As a matter of fact, him and I used to do radio shows at home in the house. We had our little turntables, which back then were those battery-powered record players. And we used to do shows. We did shifts. He came on first, he did morning. I did afternoon. And we literally, you know, faked it until we made it.
Yeah. And
that's how we started. We were just determined, and this is what we were going to do for a living, and we got it. You know.
Now I also remember he was on television, Channel 29.
Yeah, is that WNED? I believe.
That's WTV.
Okay. Well, yeah, he did. He anchored a newscast there for a while, and he also was legislative aide to James Pitts, councilman.
Okay.
So he did a lot while he was in Buffalo. He was really active. You know, we did a telethon together, the Jerry Lewis telethon, when they did the local cutaways.
Yeah.
We were able to do that. I mean, we just did so much together as brothers.
Absolutely. And of course, we got to talk about the legendary discotizer, Keith Pollard.
Keith Pollard got me into the station. He was program director when I started. And Keith was suave, debonair. he was the very first person to mix on the air. And he also, I believe he started the Quiet Storm format here in Buffalo.
Okay.
He was very, very impactful in terms of my career and me getting started. It was something. He was the epitome of cool, and that's what I remember about him.
Yeah,
women loved him.
Yeah, I can remember Keith when right around the time I had just got back to Buffalo after leaving college and was starting out my career in television. And he was on WBLK at the time. And this was around 1995. And I remember WBLK specifically, he used to host, BLK used to have these old school jams at the Marquee at the Trough a lot of times, which were a lot of fun. And he used to be the main host of it. So that's kind of where I would see the discotizer in action. And there are times, like you said, he used to do the Quiet Storm and some things, some stuff on air. So those were pretty much my memories of him before his certain untimely passing. Now, I remember talking with Dwayne Landers, and I'd asked him how he first got into radio. And he told me an interesting story that you had something to do with, that he was coming on the air after you, and you played a record before he came on saying, "This is your time." And he said that you would come on the air periodically and say, "It's maybe in 5 minutes, a new jock is coming on the air, Dwayne Landers. In 3 minutes, Dwayne is coming on the air. In 1 minute, Dwayne is coming on." So you would count down to him coming on the air.
Yeah, "This is your time" by Change. I remember that. And he was nervous, of course, but he came in and he did pretty good for his first time on the air. And Dwayne and I, we go back a long ways as well. We did a rap song together. Went to a studio and decided we wanted to be rappers. And so we went to a studio and came up with a track and did a song. And Dwayne and I, we had so much fun. We went to see Purple Rain when it came out, the Prince. And there's so many memories I have with Dwayne. Dwayne is a good dude.
Now, I can't help but ask this question since we talked about the Purple Rain tour coming to Buffalo. I'll just ask this for the fun of it. Now, before that, we had Michael Jackson and his brothers come into Buffalo with the Victory Tour. And did WUFO have any role in that at all?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Keith Pollard and I were backstage with Frankie Crocker. Are you familiar with Frankie Crocker?
Oh, yes. When I was in college in New York, he was at BLS going strong. So, and people used to hear my voice all the time. It used to tell me I sounded like Frankie Crocker when I would take my radio class. Yeah,
that's a compliment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it was.
Frankie, me, Keith, and Frankie took a picture together. And at the time, it was the Jacksons and LTD on tour. So one of the guys from LTD says, "Hey, Frankie, why don't you take a picture with me?" And Frankie, with a straight face, said, "I'm sorry, I don't take pictures with ugly people." And walked off. I was like, okay. That's imagine, how do you sit in a room with people after he says that and walks out? I'm like, okay, what do we do here? Look at the time. So,
let me find out Frankie was a savage.
Yeah, I
Was Jeffrey Osborne with him at the time, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I met Frankie again at Studio 54.
You got it. You mean you got into Studio 54?
They let me in.
You got past that velvet rope?
I had on a leather suit, a black leather suit, and a jerry curl, and he let me in.
Like
and
Eddie
I went
Murphy,
in. I saw Frankie at the bar.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't get over that Frankie Crocker story, man.
Yeah, that's a classic. Classic.
Well, as I said earlier at the top of the program, one of my biggest memories from WUFO back in like around 83, 84 time, I was me and my friends, back then in them days, we were really into breakdancing. That became like a real craze, and we were really into it. And one of the things that we used to do when we needed music, because hip hop music at that time was really hard to come by. You were hard pressed to find it. So if there were times when WUFO would play, we remember when WUFO would play that on the air, like little mix shows or whatever. And we would have our our tape recorders, and we would record the music off of there, and then do our little breakdance moves and get our practice in and everything. So we would tune into it. I believe it was every Saturday evening or something that we would record that music. So y'all helped us out a little bit. Were you a part of that or not, or was that another job?
I know. I think I may have been gone.
Okay.
Yeah, because I moved to Tampa.
Okay.
In the early 80s.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you. So after WUFO, you went to Tampa.
Yeah, I went to Tampa. I worked for an urban station there. Then I worked at a top 40 station. Then I worked at a adult contemporary station. And David Michael worked in Tampa as well. So he hired me. And the general manager says, don't hire your brother because you're showing this nepotism and it's going to put the morale of the staff. You may have messed with that,
Okay.
And he said, well, I'm going to hire my brother because my brother better than all of them. And I was like, don't do that because they're going to hate me. He did it anyway. And the general manager fired him.
I guess that was inevitable, huh?
Yeah. David Michael did whatever David Michael wanted. So he went and
I've heard about that.
At another radio station.
One of the things that I heard about when I was working at WUFO and some of the conversations that would go on at the station, because we would be standing out there in the parking lot on the side of the building, and and Dwayne would tell all kinds of stories about what would be going on at WUFO. And if you could share with our audience what it was like to actually be on the radio there, to get the opportunity to be on the radio as a jock. And the one thing I've heard from David Allen, and I've heard it from David Allen and Dwayne Landers and a lot of people, is that in those days you really, really had to come with your A game, or you would literally be like the PD would pull you out of the booth, take off your headsets, you got to go. And I've heard that. I've heard a lot of that, even with one of your PD's, Byron Pitts, that he was real straight business. So could you talk to us about that?
That's true. Byron Pitts did not play around. So the stories, I'm sure the stories you've heard about him are true. But the only time I remember is my brother-in-law, Kelly Carson, was program director, and he got my brother, David Michael, in. And David said something about, we're the station that plays the new music first, uh, even though a lot of the stations play music, we consider some of that music old or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And Kelly went into the booth and literally slapped my brother. Slapped him. Like, and I'm like, what is this? That was back in the day when, you know, it wasn't PC. There was no PC. Do whatever you want. I remember so many different stories about Bobby Love and Al Parker were two legends in Buffalo. And I remember Bobby Love was reading a newscast, and he kind of fumbled through it. And Al Parker at the end of the broadcast says, "Bobby, that was terrible. Read it again." This is on the air, you know. And I'm like, I mean, none of that kind of stuff goes on now.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's amazing the stuff that we got away with back then. And because they worked at WNIA. Remember that station? Yeah. That's when, WNIA. And God bless Bobby's soul. He was a gentle giant. I really like him. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy.
Yep, definitely. Shout out and much love to Bobby Love. Rest in peace, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of the other things about being on the radio back then, and I can remember as a kid, you know, you all were like celebrities back in the day, man. From WUFO, from WBLK, y'all would walk into a room, everybody would know you. What was that like, just to have that taste of celebrity in that day, and especially with WUFO in particular, where so many of the jocks literally were either in high school or coming out of high school. WUFO was really known for putting young people on the air. So just to be young celebrities like that, give us some idea of what your memories of that was like, especially as Mark Vann Superman.
It was heady. You know, for me to be the shy guy I was an introvert, like a real, true, honest to goodness introvert. And I got on the air, and you know, I've got everyone coming at me, ladies are coming at me on, you know, people are asking me for autographs, you know, just that whole celebrity thing just really took me by surprise. And the fortunate part was all of that took me out of my shell and it allowed me to be a personality, because it gave me confidence. It made me feel like I had arrived. I was somebody. But I mean, to run around, you know, with the Stone City Band, you know, to meet all these people that came into town. I remember Melba Moore was singing at the Trifamadour, and I was sitting in the front, and she came, found out it was my birthday, sat in my lap, and sang happy birthday to me.
Wow.
There was another time when I emceed Phyllis Hyman at the Trifamadour, and I remember her having a tantrum in the backstage, and she was asking where could somebody find a cassette to record the set. And she went off on somebody, and then she looked at me and she said, "Do you know somewhere we can get a cassette?" And I was like, "Record theater, it's open, record theater. Just go to record theater." I was she was menacing. She was intimidating. That's a tall woman.
Yeah.
But you know, to be able to go on stage and people scream, and
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like we were really truly celebrities.
Yeah. So when did you go from Superman to JoJo Walker? Is that just when that's just a change in, or was that just a change in markets?
There's a radio consultant named Tony Gray.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, Tony
Hmm.
Gray. And for those of you who don't know who Tony Gray is, there was a scene in the Wendy Williams movie where she waited a week at the radio station trying to get in touch with Tony because at the time, Tony was like the #1 program director in the country.
Hmm.
And he was at not BLS at the time. I think he was at KISS at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
But uh, Tony, one day when I came to New Orleans, uh, he put me on the air. Ron Atkins and Brian
Yeah.
Wallace hired me, and Tony put me on from 6 to 9, and was looking for a name. So he took me in a conference room with like 5 other people, and he said, "I can't let you go in there and be Mark because it's a hip hop show, and as you know, a mark is not a good thing in the hip hop
Right,
community."
right,
So
right.
he says, "Let's find a name for him." So these people are shooting names back and forth, this name, that name. And I'm sitting there like, hello, I'm right here. And so someone said JoJo. And, you know, of course, JoJo Dancer was the first thing somebody
Yep.
said.
That's the first thing I
And,
thought of when I saw you.
right.
Your life
And,
is calling.
and Tony was specific. He said, okay, JoJo, but the last name has to have 2 syllables. So it's got to be JoJo, blah, blah. And that's when it came up with Walker. And that's what I've been since then.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to, any other memories or of WUFO that you'd like to share, or maybe some of the other people like Don Mullins or anybody else you've worked with? Or...
Don Mullins. Oh yeah, Don Mullins was a great guy.
Mhm.
You know, David Michael married his daughter on the air.
Yes. Mhm.
That was fun. I remember when I bought my first car when I started working at WUFO. It was a 1962 Corvair, and if you know anything about those, they had the engine in the back. That's a different
Okay.
looking car.
Yeah.
You know, this was 1977, by the way.
Hmm.
So I drove it to the station, and Don Mullins was coming out, and he looked. He says, "Mark Vann, what is that?" I said, "That's my car." He says, "I can't have you driving around with that thing." So what he did was he went and had it remodeled, upholstered, all the engine work. It was brand new when he got it back to me.
Wow.
And I was ever so grateful because he was just such a gracious person. He always saw the good in a situation.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I miss him.
Yeah.
He really exemplified greatness, and he was the one who put that station on the map, as far as I'm concerned.
So talk to us about what you're doing today.
Wow, too much. I'm currently working as a consultant for WLNO Gospel 1060 here in New Orleans. Market manager for Tony Gray's station, which is a smooth jazz station.
Okay.
WNOZ. Since I came here, I opened a production company / ad agency called Sierra Productions, which I named after my youngest daughter. And at the time, my wife and I opened it, and we were very successful. We were one of the top 20 highest grossing Black businesses in the greater New Orleans area. My oldest daughter is still there in Buffalo. Her name's Starlet, and her wonderful husband, Alan. and my 3 grandchildren, Michael, Jason, and Alea. It's, I miss Buffalo. Go Bills. It was great. Currently I'm with my fiance. I'm getting married.
Congratulations.
And, yes, my fiance is Jennifer, and she's the program director of the station, the gospel station that I'm currently working at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a lot.
Okay. So
But that's just a snapshot.
Yeah. So in conclusion, is there anything that you'd like to say to the people, good people of the city of Buffalo?
Man, I miss you guys. And the city of Buffalo is who got me started in this, and most of the memories that I have about radio were in Buffalo, because that's my first love, WUFO, and all the things that happened in radio started there. So I give my love to the people of Buffalo. Thank you for supporting me when I was there. You guys gave me much love, and shout out to the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills! I watch every game, and also I want to say my condolences to the families who lost loved ones in the situation with Top Market.
Yes.
That really saddened me.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Buffalo, just keep on keeping on. You don't stop doing what you're doing. You're a literal pathway to Buffalo for those of us who are outside of Buffalo. And those memories of Arthur Overeem, all those great people, we love that stuff. So keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're doing a great job.
You're going to do our best we can to keep everything going. Mark Vann, Superman, JoJo Walker, Mark Wilson, thanks so much for being here on the Buffalo History Channel. We've been working trying to get everything the line up, and we finally got you on here, brother, and I'm glad we did.
Well, thanks from all 3 of us.
All right.